is huge. Somehow. There we go. And once again, it's prettier in person. Right? If you're not hearing that on camera, there's a lot of wow. Wow.
Oh, it got it all in now.
Pretty quilting. That the quilting is a quilter's niche digitized design, and I'll put the information in the comments below. So 2.5 inch strips. That's why we love this project so much. It's just 2.5 inch strips, background, and borders to make this quilt. I think if I were to do it again, I would use a different color for the these the star in the corners, because I think it gets lost with all the values aren't great enough, the difference. So bel canto with one background color. Good. All right, let's see what else my slides say. I did all my thinking ahead of time, because it's a true statement that you go stupid in front of people, and it's a true statement that I go stupid in front of people and in front of the camera.
It's a true statement.
Okay, so here we go. Now, this is where all the background's going to be if you just use one background.
There we go.
All right, I will tell you there is a graphic typo in the pattern. Oh no! We try really hard, you guys. Sometimes it happens, but it's nothing. The instructions are all correct, and we've made this quilt, and the error was read over, so I'm sure you would read over it too. But I want to tell you, on page 4, step 4, page 1, it'll look like, see the X, it'll look like the background is sort of this bluer one, which is background C, but it actually is the peachier one, background D. So just make a note of that. You can also download this errata from our webpage. So I think that is the next graphic, if I'm smart enough. Yay! Go to CozyQuilt.com, search for bel canto Coda, and you can download both that fabric requirements page, or the swatch sheet with our swatches, and the errata, so you can complete your pattern with that information. It's all ready for you. What else do we have? All right, let's talk about picking fabrics. Since you're starting with 2.5 inch strips, you're going to make a scrappy quilt. You don't really have to worry about fabric placement except for just a couple of things. The first thing is, if you would like to create sort of an arrow effect in the center of your quilt, you want to pick out those fabrics now. The very middle, the plus, I already told you the plus is going to be the first block. The plus, you want to pick out something that maybe pops if you want to create the arrow effect for block 1. And then the surrounding blocks, north, south, east, west, they're block 4. So you want to set matching things aside for block 4. Can we go to the quilt so you can see what I'm talking about? Now, do you see that there's a giant plus behind me? Over my left shoulder are arrows. So if you want to duplicate this look, you want to set aside the fabrics you want to use for both the plus, and then this little part here, make it the matching fabric. You want to set those aside for block 4. This is the only time you need to think and worry about your fabric selections. Everything else will be scrappy. By the way, this is background fabric, so we already have that set aside, and it'll match the blocks that surround it here and here. All right, so there's your plus. I know, it's helpful sometimes to see what other people do. So I took pictures along the way how I arranged all of my fabrics, so I'll show you those pictures. I'll tell you, we only had, 3 weeks to make this quilt?
Oh my gosh.
Make it, quilt it, bind it, ship it. 3 weeks. Because we were doing this for a Riley Blake design, and it was going to be at market, and we really wanted it at market. So we parsed this out to various different people, and then brought it back. Somebody put it all together, somebody else quilted it and bound it, so we wanted to stay very organized. Okay, so here's how I sorted things out. If you are working, step 1, if you are working with our fabrics and you want the same effect, this is what you can do. Step 1 for strips, this beautiful blue fabric with sort of these swirly things on it, which looks like feathered quilting, doesn't it? Becomes the plus. and then the lighter blue becomes the 5 patch. The 5 patch is not as critical. That plus is really the critical one. Okay, so we set those aside for step 1, strips for the center. Do you like how I put the Sharpie and the notepad in there to make it look like I really did this?
Yes. Yes.
All right, next one. Step 4. So now we're going to set aside the fabrics for step 4. Go with the center block. We have that same blue with the swirly design pattern. We're going to need 2 of each set aside for step 4. After that, we're just going to arrange them by steps. If you have any strips that have a lighter value, I recommend putting them in the plus square, which is step 1. That way they don't create as many holes. So lighter value ones, or values that match your background. That's a better way to state it. Any values that match your background, I recommend in the plus. Other than that, it's scrappy. Have a good time with your strips and enjoy. So here's what we put aside for step 1. We have the plus set aside, and then we have additional strips. And now here's what I put aside for step 2. They're just strips. Step 3, you'll use a couple of different background fabrics and strips. So if you need to be organized and this is helpful for you, here you go. Step 4, remember we parsed this out to different people that made the blocks and brought them back to us. So I had to be particular about where things, make sure the cuts were right and the number of strips were correct. And here's that, sorry, go back to step 4. So here are those blue strips that we're going to feature in step 4 for the ones that go around the center block. And then we have step 5, and then we have step 6. So if you want to sort your fabrics, there you go. That's how we did it. Very simple. What's next? All right, let's get on with step 1. Step 1 is very, very easy. It's just a plus.